Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we will complete the remaining chapter. In a previous class we discussed about nutrition and its types. Today we are going to discuss about nutrition in plants. And we all know plants use autotrophic mode of nutrition in which plants are able to make their own food. So they are not dependent on other organisms for their food. Now, plants need some sources to make their food like water, carbon dioxide, and minerals. They get these raw materials from their surroundings. Okay? Plants get water and minerals from soil, and these are absorbed by roots. Okay? And then they are further transported to the leaves. And how leaves get water and minerals? So plants have vessels that run like pipes and transport water and minerals to all the roots, stem, branches and leaves. Plants get carbon dioxide from tiny pores. So plants have, especially leaves have tiny pores on their surface or on the surface of leaves. Okay, and these pores are known as stomata that we are going to discuss later. Okay, and they are surrounded by guard cells. So by getting all these raw materials, plants make their food in the presence of sunlight because sun is the ultimate source of energy, not just for plants but for all living organisms. Okay, now the process by which plants make their own food in the presence of sunlight is known as photosynthesis. Okay, let's break it down. Photo means light and synthesis means to combine. We are going to discuss this process in detail. Let's first draw a structure of a leaf. This is known as petiole. This is known as midrib. This is known as tip. This portion is known as lamina. And these branches like structures are known as veins. This is margin. Okay. We just talked about how water and minerals are transported to the leaves. Portion where photosynthesis takes place is known as lamina. And midrib is the portion which acts like a pipeline. We can say that it is the main pipeline of a leaf that transport water and minerals further through these branches like structures called veins. Okay. In lamina, some cells are present. They are known as mesophyll cells. And these cells have chloroplast. Chloroplast is an organelle that has green pigments known as chlorophyll. And these chlorophyll are able to trap light or sunlight. In the presence of this sunlight, using all the raw materials, plants make their food that is known as carbohydrate. Okay, and generally glucose is prepared. So plant use this food material then and this food is transported from leaves to all the parts. Okay, through we know vessels. So generally plants have some vascular bundles known as xylem and phloem that you are going to learn in your higher classes. Okay, xylem transport water and minerals and phloem transports food through vessels. Okay, that we just talked about. Now, the remaining food that is left or the remaining carbohydrate that is left is stored further in the form of starch. And whenever plant need food, it is then again transported. I hope this is clear to you all. So, let us define the process of photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? The process in which plants prepare their own food with the help of sunlight and in the presence of chlorophyll is known as photosynthesis. If chlorophyll is not present in plants, then food is not prepared because chlorophyll can only trap the sunlight. Okay, so all green plants have this chlorophyll. Now you must be thinking about the other plants that are not green in color. Leaves other than green also have chlorophyll. Okay, but the large amount of red, brown, and other pigments mask the green color. So the plants other than green also have photosynthesis. Okay. Now besides leaves, photosynthesis also takes place in other parts like stems, branches because these also have stomata. Okay. And stomata have green pigment known as chlorophyll. Now we know desert plants have not that enough water. So they have scale or spine-like leaves. We can say that the surface area of their leaves is very narrow or shorter. Why? To reduce the loss of water by transpiration. Okay, what is transpiration? It is the process by which plants lose water in the form of water vapor. Okay, through their tiny pores that are known as stomata. So these plants have green stems which carry out photosynthesis. So we can say that in desert plants, photosynthesis is carried out by green stems, okay, not leaves. Now let's talk about stomata in detail. This is the structure of a stomata. Here you can see that these are the pores and these kidney-shaped cells are known as guard cells. Guard cells are living cells. This brown spot is known as nucleus. They have nucleus, they are living. And these green spots are known as chlorophyll that are able to trap the sunlight. So guard cells control the opening and closing of the stomatal pore. We know plants get CO2 from outside or from air. So when plants need CO2, these pores get open, or we can say that the guard cells open themselves and this pore looks like this. It gets swollen. When CO2 gets in, oxygen has to get out. So this is the equation of photosynthesis. Here you can see plants take carbon dioxide from air and water from soil. So, with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll, plants make their food in the form of glucose and they release oxygen. Okay, so oxygen is released as a byproduct, or we can also say that 6 molecules of carbon dioxide combines with 6 molecules of water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Then they make their food, glucose, and 6 molecules of oxygen are released in the air, and that oxygen is taken up by us or by heterotrophs or all the living organisms. In aquatic plants, photosynthesis also takes place. They get CO2 or carbon dioxide from water. It is dissolved in water. So they directly take it through the process of osmosis. Okay? And example are all the algae. Algae are green plants or that live in water. Algae form slimy green patches in ponds or in stagnant water bodies. Now let's focus here. We saw the parts of leaf. This is the internal structure of a leaf. Leaf is many parts. So this upper layer is known as epidermis that provides protection to the leaf, okay? And they have cuticle that controls the process of transpiration. Then the second layer is palisade layer.
Palisade layer is a photosynthetic powerhouse because it contains many chlorophyll and the cells are tightly packed.
Then comes the spongy layer. So this is spongy layer, and they have these spaces, okay, that helps in the gas exchange. They allow CO2 in and O2 out, and they also contain chloroplast. This is known as lower epidermis. Contains small pores that are known as stomata. So you can see here small pores are there that are stomata, and the opening and closing of these pores is controlled by guard cells. So here guard cells are present. Stomata have three basic functions. First one is exchange of gases. They allow carbon dioxide to enter the leaf for photosynthesis and oxygen to go out. Okay. Second important function is transpiration. Water vapor goes out of the leaf through stomata. Third is they maintain balance by opening and closing. So they prevent extra water loss. Stomata are present in leaves or in stems also, but not in roots. Here is another diagram that is showing photosynthesis. Here you can see light energy. First, light energy is trapped by chlorophyll, okay, that are present in leaf. Plants get CO2 from air. CO2 gets in water. You can see here water is also absorbed by roots, and then water further reaches to the leaf. Now, with the help of carbon dioxide and water and with the help of sun and chlorophyll, plants prepare their food. And when the food is prepared, oxygen is released. So we just discussed it. Plants synthesize carbohydrates, right? Through the process of photosynthesis. So the carbohydrates are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and they are further used to synthesize other important components like proteins and fats. Okay, but we know proteins are nitrogenous substances. What are nitrogenous substances? That contain nitrogen. Okay, so now the question arises, from where do the plants obtain nitrogen? So as like carbon dioxide, nitrogen is also present in air in gaseous form. Okay, but plants are not able to absorb this nitrogen in this gaseous form. So it needs to be converted in other forms like nitrites or nitrates. Soil has certain bacteria that convert this gaseous nitrogen in a usable form, and then it is released into the soil. And we know plants absorb the water, and along with water this nitrogen also gets absorbed. Okay, we have seen farmers adding fertilizers, and fertilizers are rich in nitrogen. So in this way plants fulfill their requirement of nitrogen, and then plants synthesize proteins and vitamins from it. Now in our previous class we talked about heterotrophic mode of nutrition in detail. In heterotrophic mode of nutrition, organisms are not able to make their own food. Why? Because they have not chlorophyll, and we saw many examples of heterotrophs. So today we will discuss saprophytes in detail. This is an umbrella-like structure, right? And you may have seen these fluffy umbrella-like patches that grow in moist soil. Moist means wet soil, or on rotting wood. So what is the meaning of rotting wood? That is decaying. Its structure is becoming softer and weaker. So in rotting wood or in moist soil, these umbrella-like patches are grown. So here is another example. You can see here, this is a picture of a rotten bread. These green patches are grown. So they are known as fungi. Okay, so these fungi have a different mode of nutrition. They absorb the nutrients from the bread, and we can say from the dead and decaying material. Okay, and this type of nutrition is known as saprotrophic nutrition, in which organisms take in nutrients from dead and decaying matter, and such organisms are known as saprotrophs. So fungi are the examples of saprotrophs. Other than bread or rotten wood, fungi also grow on pickles, leather, clothes, and other articles, especially in hot and humid weather or in rainy season. Okay, here you can see these small spherical structures. These are fungal spores that further give rise to a mature fungi. These fungal spores are always present in
Air.
when they get suitable environment for their growth, like when they get humidity or moisture, they grow easily. I hope this is clear to you all. So now last relationship that we are going to discuss is symbiosis. Some organisms live together, okay, and they share both shelter and nutrients. So let's take an example of a relationship between fungi and plants. Fungi and plants are dependent on each other. Fungi get nutrients from the plants because fungi are not able to make their food. Plants provide nutrients to the fungus, and in return, fungus provides water and certain nutrients to the plant. Okay, fungi are able to absorb the water from the soil. Let's take another example of the symbiosis relationship. The lichen is not a single organism, it is a partnership between a fungus and an alga. Okay, and they live together. So how it works? Alga makes food by photosynthesis for fungus, and in return fungus gives shelter, water and minerals to the alga. Okay, so both help each other and survive together. So these lichens can grow on rocks, tree barks and walls, and they are often the first organisms to grow in very harsh places. Their presence tells us about clean air because lichens cannot grow in polluted areas. Now the last topic of your chapter is how nutrients are replenished in the soil. We know plants take nutrients like nitrogen from the soil while growing. So if nutrients are not returned, soil becomes poor and crops don't grow well. Nutrients are replenished or refilled in these ways. First, by decomposition of dead plants and animals. When plants, animals and their waste decay, they turn into humus. So this humus adds nutrients back to the soil. Okay. Second, by fertilizers and manures. Farmers add natural manures like cow dung and compost or chemical fertilizers to make the soil fertile again. Third, by nitrogen fixing bacteria. So some bacteria like rhizobium live in the root nodules of leguminous plants like peas, beans. They take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form plant can use. Okay. And last one is by natural processes. The lightning also helps fix a small amount of nitrogen into the soil, and rainwater dissolves some minerals and adds them to the soil. Now your chapter is completed. I hope you liked the class. So that's all for today. Thank you.